you don't have the obligation to go out and preach your version of the truth from your attitude to the other side. And I love how generous you're being with people. I mean, I think that's wonderful. And I think also that brings followers as well. I mean, I think that the politics right now is incredibly oppositional. It makes for rock'em sock'em robots, and that's really fun to watch, obviously. Yeah. But the stuff that tends to generate long-term listenership is not just the rock'em sock'em robot kind of stuff. That sometimes gets people in the door, and then you actually have to give them some substance, and you have to actually, have longer conversations. I mean, I think that when it comes to my own brand, one of the things that we've really tried to do is talk with people outside our box. I mean, we talk to people across the aisle frequently. I have friends, obviously, who are not on the same page politically as I am. I try not to attribute bad motivations to the people who I'm arguing with. I try to say you're making a bad argument, but I'm not sure that it's coming from a bad place. And typically, I mean, I get flack from my own side for saying this, but I tend to attribute most things to stupidity or ignorance rather than to malice. Which, when the easiest thing in politics, the easiest game to play, and it's a game I really hate, is this game of the reason they're doing this or saying because they maliciously hate you. I like that game because it actually is impossible to come together with somebody who maliciously hates you.
I just don't even agree with that.
I don't agree with it either. I think
who has that mindset?
I think there are a bunch of people on the right who have that mindset, who are constantly, if ever they say, they're out to get you. They're out to get you. Okay, so there are cases where there are people who are out to get you a particular point of view. That's true, obviously. There are people who hate Christians, who don't want Christians in the public square. That's 100% true.
But if you get to the root of that, right? No matter how much they disguise themselves with hatred or bigotry or racism, there is a disease in there that could be cured. And a lot of people don't agree. They think, oh no, they just need to be killed or they need to be wiped off this earth. But the truth is, regardless of how that person viewed, it's only because they were taking with their society or their thoughts all together and piecing it and then taking their POV of it, and they're like, no, I think Christians are bad because of blah, blah, blah. And they're taking what other fake Christians did to them. And so they believe that all of them. So of course I could look at this person and be like, oh, F this dude. But how I see this, true, and I know it sounds cheesy, is if my God did come down and save me, I was not worthy of being saved. Our people tried to kill him, but yet he still came and loved me. So when my enemy stands before me, I'm not looking at him, I'm looking at the demons that trail behind him with his past trauma or his information that he's holding.
I mean, I think that that's a very wise insight. And again, I think from an Old Testament context, that's the book of Jonah. Right? The book of Jonah is all about the idea that Jonah has to go to Nineveh, where everyone's a sinner. And Jonah,
that was us. Right. We were Nineveh, where I'm a Syrian.
And Jonah is protesting because he's saying the Assyrians are going to be the party who ends up destroying the temple. So why am I going and basically bringing them back to monotheism? And God says, well, they're human beings. I mean, you need to go and do that regardless of what comes next. And that's a very generous point of view. I'm not sure that it always manifests politically, but I think that when you're talking to people, it's wonderful. I also think that even on the less deep level, I think you're going to a really deep level that's important, but even on the less deep level where you say, okay, there are people who are motivated by malice, who hate Christians for whatever reason, but actually hate Christians. I think it's easy to ascribe that motivation to a broader swath of people than it merits. So instead of saying we have a political disagreement over X, Y, or Z issue, it's, oh, you do that because you despise me and you want people like me to die. And I think that's the easiest thing in politics, because if you push on that button, and everyone who's on your side responds. Like it's an easy response mechanism, because your threat, everyone's threat, limbic system goes into play, and now you can manipulate people, because once in a place of fear, it's very easy to manipulate people. I think that you see that a lot on both the right and the left side of the aisle. I think you see a example where people are like, he's a fascist, he's like Hitler, he's going to kill people. Is he though? Is he really? Why are they doing that? I think that some of them are doing it because they feel that, which I think is misguided. Some of them are doing that because I think they're being manipulative. A great way to motivate people is to say that there's an existential threat to you, and so that's it's an approach called emotivism by the philosopher Alistair McIntyre, trying to attribute motive to the person rather than arguing with their argument, and that's something I really try not to do in debate. So if I'm in debate, I never will say to you, you're doing this because what you believe is X. I'll say, okay, just make sure your argument is this. Here's where I see flaws in that argument. I see flaws here, here, and here. Because if we do that, we can have a conversation. If I'm arguing about your deep-rooted motivation is that you want something terrible to happen to me and my family, that's not an argument now. Now we're at war.
Yeah, I understand that. So you're saying, okay, this is an Old Testament reference too. If they can't assassinate you, they'll assassinate your character. So that way other people are like, no, he's bad.
Right, exactly. And again, I think it's really motivating, and it's really easy to play that game.
Do you think they did that with Andrew Tate?
I mean, it depends on who they is. So I think there are a lot of critiques of Andrew Tate. I've obviously been extremely critical of Andrew Tate.